Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode number 5 of the Substitute podcast. And today I'm joined by Birdkeeper Toby. How you doing, Toby?
Hey man, I'm good. How you doing? All right?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Um,
Cool.
it'll be nice
I
to
love
have.
the name.
Thank you.
Sorry. Oh, I'm,
That's
I-
all
I'm
right.
immediately a bad guest and interrupting.
No,
I
go for
love
it. It's
your
fine.
name, Substitute Podcast. That's great.
Yeah, it kind of came to me because
Yeah.
basically I was going to have the tagline that it's the podcast to listen to when you've got nothing else to listen to.
Ah,
Um,
that makes sense.
I never rolled with that, but I might do in the future. It's just a bit
No, it
long,
worked. I like
a
it.
bit long as a tagline.
Yeah.
But,
Well,
yeah.
it's just Substitute Podcast when you've got nothing better to listen to. That's it.
I'll get some t-shirts made.
Yeah.
It's nice to have a conversation on that's recorded because we talk about this kind of stuff a lot. Well,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Well, and do you know what? And you're one of my favorite people to kind of like. I feel like you have a presence about you when it comes to Pokemon cards, where I know that if I ask you questions, it's coming. Your answers aren't going to be like an overinflated kind of like, oh yeah, definitely buy it, super hype, let's just buy all the Pokemon cards. Like I think you've got a very kind of reasoned presence about you, which I've always appreciated. So I'm just like, oh, I just want to talk to you about Pokemon cards a bunch because I feel like we're gonna learn some things. I'm gonna learn some things, you know.
well, I try my best.
Yeah.
I feel like it comes a lot with I guess a lot with. I don't want to say age because I'm not that old, but like it comes a little bit with like I've seen Pokemon come and go.
Sure.
So like
How long have you been? How long have you been in kind of in the space?
I've been in and out for about 6 or 7 years.
Sure.
Um, so I've seen like it dip and it rise, and interest in it go up and down. I've not been like as active as I am now before. But I got like a little bit back into it in like 2014, and then like properly back in 2019 with a little bit of dabbled a little bit in between. It's yeah, just like I saw the 2016 hype. I saw Pokemon Go be like the biggest thing in the world. But
Yeah.
but in the same way, nothing has happened like last year, and
No,
I
it's
don't think
been.
that's yeah.
It's really weird because there was like obviously Pokemania in the 1990s, 2000s, and then there was like this, Twitch plays Pokemon in like 20, what was that, 2014 or 2015? It was like Twitch plays Pokemon, and it was like, oh yeah, Pokemon, and so the head started turning, and that was fun for a week, and then Pokemon Go was like a thing for like a month or so. It was just like, I mean, it's still huge, but like it really took the attention of the world again. And then 2020, everything that happened with the cards and Logan Paul and the lockdown, and that became a whole year. So by process of like I guess it repeating, I expect next time it'll be like a several year. Everyone turns their head until eventually they've taken over the world.
I mean, no one is better at marketing than Pokemon, right? Like
Mm.
they have the best marketing in the world, I would say, debatably. Or must of any like kind of global franchise,
Yes.
because they can literally sell anything, and they have in the
Yeah.
past. But speaking of their marketing, obviously you more than most were invested in Gen 4 remakes.
Yeah.
I would say that
Yeah.
you were their champion for a couple of years before they were even, rumored to be a thing. So what do you just basically blanket statement? What do you think about the Diamond and Pearl remakes coming and the Arceus game?
So, do you know what? It's really weird because the moment they got announced, everything flipped on its head for me. Where I went, now Legends Arceus, that's the game to be excited for. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, if they are effectively the same games, then I'll just play I'll play the new ones because they're coming out and it's a nice excuse. And I've been purposefully not playing a Gen 4 game in a while so that it'll feel more fresh when I get to it. So, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, I'll play them, but then after that, it's like I'll probably just play the sprite games over the newer versions. Whereas with Legends Arceus, what I'm looking for with that remake is new content, and Legends Arceus is all new content. So for me, yeah, Sinnoh remakes. Let's go back to Sinnoh, mostly because I want the new stuff that they're going to add in. If I just wanted the old experience, I'd play the old game. So 1-for-1 remake, not super exciting for me right now. Legends Arceus, whoa, this is something to look forward to for me.
Yeah, no, I think I'm in the same boat. Like I didn't play Diamond and Pearl, but I played Platinum. And I've been told that universally that Platinum is just a better version of the
Yes,
two.
absolutely.
Um, so I have, I don't own the originals, so I'll probably get the remakes just to see what they're like. I'm sure that adds something. Like whenever they Pokemon do a remake, they add something, whether it's a post game or like some
Sure.
quality of life features or whatever.
But usually they're kind of marketed differently because, like with Heart Gold Silver, that those first trailers, it's just like, oh yeah, your Pokemon are following you. They never did that in Gold and Silver. That's cool. So you like knew that from the get go. And then with Oras, the first announcement was Primal Groudon and Primal Kyogre, and so we knew there was going to be new story elements, new content. There was going to be new stuff about it. This one, they've gone the opposite route with the marketing. They've said this is a faithful remake. Now, what we've seen in the trailer is we've seen characters who belong in Platinum, which sort of implies that actually it's going to be a faithful remake of Platinum, except instead of Giratina, it will be either Dialga or Palkia, and then maybe there'll be some kind of Platinum focused post game or something. But as far as we know, it's just going to be on repeat. Now, I'm kind of hopeful for this idea that at some point towards the release, they go, oh, by the way, when you finish the game and get the national decks, you have access to every single Pokemon from all of the later generations as well. Because then for me, that suddenly makes it so much more exciting. The idea I could play through Sinnoh with Pokemon from Unova, Kalos, Alola, or Galar. That's super cool. We've never done that before.
Yeah, I mean, you've discussed in a video, right, that you think that Dynamax is going to be in the game.
Possibly.
With
Yeah.
what,
I think it's possible, yeah.
like, do you think that would be enough of a shake up to make it like so when they remade Ruby and Sapphire in Alpha Omega and Omega
Yeah.
Ruby, they added Mega Evolutions, and that was like a big shake up of the mechanics of the game. Do you think that if they add Dynamax, it would make it different enough to make it like a different game, or do you think it would just make it
I don't
slightly different?
know. I don't think that alone would make it exciting enough. I don't know. They'd have to add new Dynamax forms for sure. Um, yeah, I'm not sure.
But
There's a thing with Dynamax where with all of the new Galar Pokemon, when you look at like Center Scorch is the one that really jumps to mind for me. The Dynamax form is like this really cool thing about it. It's like, okay, so we've got, Sizzlipede evolves into Center Scorch can become, Gmax or Vmax or whatever it is, Center Scorch, and it becomes this huge like centipede, and it's awesome. In future generations that don't have that mechanic, Center Scorch will just lose that, and it's like with Charizard, that's not so bad because, well, these are gimmicks that are being added. But with all of the Galar Pokemon, like the starters and Sandscorch and Corviknight and whoever else, these are like a core thing that you think about in relation to that Pokemon. They're effectively losing an evolution, I think, which is kind of going to be weird going forward.
yeah, that is kind of the thing, right? Like Center Scorch has been pushed really heavily in the TCG, and I feel
Mm,
like the thing that's been pushed most is that its VMAX is very cool. Same with
yes.
same with like Duraludon, for example. Like Duraludon's not a particularly incredible Pokemon, but its Gmax form is
Oh
is really
yeah.
cool. So yeah, I feel like it would be odd of them to abandon like Gigantamax and Dynamax one game in,
Mm.
but I guess Mega Evolutions only lasted like what, one game?
Well, no, not really, because they were obviously in X and Y, and then they were in Aurath for the remakes, and that was one generation. But Mega Evolution was still in Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and Mega Evolution has proved popular enough that it keeps on coming back into like it's in Pokemon Masters, it's now in Pokemon Go, and with the appearance of Gigantamax forms, there's like this like bring back Megas, bring back Megas. I kind of think that where it's going is down the line is that eventually Pokemon will have an ultimate form where you can evolve your Charizard into either X, Y, or Gigantamax, or that the Gigantamax forms will just be smaller but become new Mega forms, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. Um,
Yeah.
but well, we've talked about Diamond and Pearl, but like you said, Arceus is probably the thing that most people are excited about because it's just so
Oh
different
yeah.
to anything that we've seen before. My question is, when do you think it's set time wise?
So based on the little information we've got, so we know that the modern Pokeball was developed around 500 years ago. We know this because Magearna, according to its Pokedex entry, is made 500 years ago. Spiritomb was created when 108 angry spirits got bound together into the old Keystone around 500 years ago, and that process is very similar to the idea of taking the life force energy of Pokemon, infinity energy within the lore, and binding it into a Pokeball. So the modern Pokeball doesn't date back further than about 500 years. We know that it's set in an sort of ancient Japan. So the idea that it would be any sooner than 100 years is ridiculous. So I think that narrows down our window to anywhere between 100 and 500 years ago. Um, I know there are different arguments about which time period it's based on. The one I hear the most is feudal Japan. I don't know if this is right, but that suggests anywhere between sort of 200 to 400 years ago. So that window for me does make sense. I don't think we'll be meeting characters who exist as like Professor Oak. Oh, when I was a boy, I was in the Sinnoh region, and you would have seen me there. Like, I think it's going to be different people, different communities. You've also got to like they talk about Sinnoh being a big open wilderness. Sinnoh is filled with cities and towns. It takes a long time for those things to form. So I think 200 to 400 years ago sounds right for me.
Yeah, I was thinking. So I think like it's supposed to be feudal Japan. But feudal
Mm,
Japan's a little bit well. I mean, feudal Japan's like 500 years of history,
sure.
but like it starts at like 1,000 years ago almost,
Oh right.
and
Okay.
and ends about 500 years ago, 400 years ago.
Sure.
So again, that's like obviously Pokemon don't have to be loyal to actual real life
No.
chronology
Sure.
because there's just no need. Like they can do what they want. When you invent a world, you can make the timeline whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. Of course.
But yeah, I think that's probably a wise
I
shout.
think I
I'm sure at
think
some point they'll tell us.
400 sounds right. 500 sounds possible as well. Um, the odd keystone thing with Spiritomb. Spiritomb is such a Sinnoh focused Pokemon. And this idea of 108 spirits, there's been kind of rumors and whispers and talks about maybe there being creatures in this game that are not Pokemon. And if that ties in 500 years sounds right. Sounds good. Especially, we've got these very early Pokeballs that are like predate the one that Professor Oak has as a kid the in the movie, in the fourth movie. So I think I think anywhere between 2 to 500 years is like right.
Yeah, I'd say yeah, it's good. Do you think I'm not sure if they've already said it, but do you think it'll be like creating the first Pokedex as part of your journey?
Yes, and there's a little theory that the like maybe the professor is like Cyrus who's gone back in time at the end of Diamond and Pearl, and that the Pokedex exists as this sort of like bootstrap paradox that it exists because it exists in the future, which I think would be very cool. So yeah, yeah,
I will say we don't know very much about it at this point. I'm sure they'll release more nearer the time. But
yeah.
when is it? Is it January next year? It comes out?
No, it's I think they say early next year, but I don't know.
Oh, that could be anywhere up to like sort of
That could be
April,
anywhere up to
May.
the midway through the year, and I honestly, I hope it's delayed. I hope, I mean, I don't hope it's delayed. I hope it's a good quality product. I really need that game to be good for me. Um, so yeah, I know. I just hope it's a good game.
Well, talking about Gen 4 and things that we want to be good, I hear you've been searching for shinies for your collection, and that was a very loose.
That was an interesting segue.
No, it's a very loose segue, but I will pull it back. Don't worry.
Okay, all
So
right, okay, yeah.
so Gen 4 obviously is next. Eventually, Gen 5 will come around, and I've been hearing that you've been having some trouble finding the Gen 5 shiny Pokemon.
Hey, there it is. Okay, do you know what? Actually, I'm down to the last two now. I've got the Empoleon and the Gardevoir to go, which of course are going to be some of the more expensive and harder to get ones. Because it's actually a really cool Empoleon card. But yeah, I decided to set out on a bit of a project. Basically, I think in 2019 at the October Comic Con, I had sort of said, or May to October, I started picking up shinies, and I was like, it would be really cool to have one of each of the original shining Pokemon. And just that, like, I don't care about the quality. I had the Magikarp and Celebi from when I was a kid, and I had the Mewtwo someone had traded me at an event, and I picked up a Gyarados, a really bad condition Gyarados, off someone over like Gumtree or something. I was like, I want to get one of every of the original shining Pokemon. Let's do it. So started down that road, and at Comic Cons I picked them up, and I think I got my Raichu in a trade, and I got the Steelix and the Tyranitar for like £40 each, and I traded in some cards, and this was, even that's like already huge. I think I paid £60, and I was like, spending this much on cardboard, they're not perfect condition, they're only okay condition, whatever. The Shining Mew, I got the Japanese one at the con. I think I got that October 2019. Again, just trading and bartering and just trying to get the best price. And then the Charizard was a Shining Charizard. I think it was about £200, and it was a PSA 7, and I was like, I'm just gonna do it. So this was obviously £200 now for a Shining Charizard PSA 7, I think is very much under. I think you'd be very lucky to get it at that price. But back then, that was sort of the going rate. And that's what I managed to negotiate with the guy. He was moving out of singles and moving into boxes. Very good time. Very smart play from him. Anyway, and then I had them. I had one of every shining Pokemon, and I thought, that's really cool. And then I went, oh, also last year when Shining Legends was coming out, I totally picked up one of each of the Shinings from that set. So I've got all the old Shinings and all the new Shinings. And hey, there's this Hidden Fate set. Wouldn't it be cool if I got one of every, and I wasn't gonna do it, but then I pulled the Charizard and I thought, well, that's the hardest bit done. So then I got one of everything from Hidden Fate. And then I was like, well, let's have a look at where else Shinies appear in the TCG's history. And that just basically sent me down this huge path of like, these are the Gen 3 ones, these are the Gen 5 ones that, I knew about Gold Stars. And actually, beginning of 2020, I didn't have any Gold Star Pokemon cards. I didn't have any at all. And I thought, there's no way I'm going to be able to get these, because we're at a point where retro cards are starting to sort of be noticed or it felt that they were starting to be noticed. The chances are they've been going up in price since day one. But I thought, these Gold Stars, like, I can't afford, £100, in some cases, £100 per Gold Star, which again, now is laughable. I wish I picked them up at that price, and the Gold Stars, I got, I pulled a shiny Zacian, the gold one from Sword and Shield, which was the latest set at the time. And I traded that for I'm guessing like PSA 7 or 8 quality Gold Star Regirock, and I thought, Zacian, I've got many more years to try and get hold of it, but if I'm going to get this Regirock, I've got to do it now or never, because they're going to get harder and harder and harder to get hold of, I thought, over time. Which turns out I think was the right thing. I bought a Gold Star Mew as well. And then I just started going on the hunt, eBay listings, trying to get good deals. The purchases just got a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And I'm now at the point with the Gold Stars, actually, where I need the Registeel, the 3 evolutions, well, the 5 and the 5 evolutions, which are going to be the hardest ones to get hold of. But other than that, I've nearly got them all. And I'm building out this binder, and I've got about 14 cards left that I need. That are the remaining 14 out of about 350 shiny Pokemon from across the card game's history. Um, and yeah, my hope is to kind of complete that binder as quickly and cheaply as possible. Um, and then I've done it. I've, one of every shiny Pokemon.
I think what you're saying about the Registeel, the Registeel, yeah, is that, or no, the Regirock, sorry, is
Yeah.
that I think that's one of the byproducts that's happened of that people sometimes don't appreciate of Pokemon being more popular. Is like obviously the prices have gone up and it's harder to buy sealed product, but it's also getting increasingly difficult to find singles from anything apart from Sword and Shield. And like obviously vintage ones have always been quite hard
Yeah.
to find, but like even XY singles now are getting increasingly hard to find, especially the like desirable Pokemon.
Yes.
You can see it with like the Lugia full art from Ancient Origins. That card was £3-4. I mean, and then it rose to about 10, and it was like stable at about that value for quite a while. It's like 80-90 pounds now, and
Mm,
it's just not so much the price; it's also that the amount of them listed on eBay and other sites is much lower because basically
yeah.
everything now that's good gets graded, and
Yes.
even PSA being closed hasn't stopped people buying things, putting them in like putting them in sleeves, in semi rigids, in top loaders, and keeping them in like a grading pile that they won't
Yeah.
get rid of. And just
Yeah, this is a weird time because you think so many people are buying and selling Pokemon cards, but then how many of what percentage of the world's cards are right now is it in California at the grading site, ready to go? How many of them are in the post right now? Not, and I'd imagine, and also a lot of cards, you go, well, I want to keep that. I want to keep that card, and once I've got it, I don't want to let it go. A lot of people recognizing that Pokemon cards is a long term play, and so these cards getting locked away, put away for for later on to slowly be released back into the world. Um, yeah, these singles are getting harder to get hold of, and what I felt with the gold stars is my feelings at the time were that Shinings, everyone knew that Shinings were special because they were the original. They were part of that WotC era that everyone cared about. This was during Pokemania. Most people will have known to put them aside, keep them in a binder. Oh, I know that I've got a shiny, whatever. But the gold stars were maybe something more obscure. That they were something that were just a little bit weird, a little bit quirky, that maybe people wouldn't have in a more general sense wouldn't have recognized as like, oh, this is a special card, oh, it's shiny, the Mew's blue, I thought that was just because it's water type, oh, the Gyarados is red, I thought it was because it's fire type, whatever, that your more general collector might not have any idea about, and that these cards were the cards that are less likely to be identified by people as this is something special, and are possibly out there sitting in bulk or possibly out there sitting in binders that have not been kind of like put to the side. But also, yeah, I've lost my trail of thought.
I guess
I
yeah.
just thought there was something that like they're a really special era of shiny cards, and I just thought I gotta get these now if I can, if it's at all possible. I've had great help from my community as well, people on Instagram who are just like, hey, let's I can do you a trade and we can work it out. And I always try and give them equal value if I can. But they're yeah, they've been good to me.
I think I think yeah, we're in a weird situation now where like anything high end gets graded because that's how you either you want to keep it or if you want to sell it, you maximize your margins by grading.
Hmm.
Be interesting to see when PSA reopen, like what prices they'll be setting grading costs at, because we might reach a stage where if it
Hmm.
costs, say, if they match Beckett for example, and it ends up being like £35 a card on their lowest service, like people just won't want to grade and will sell up all of the like mid level stuff that they have. But
Yeah.
before they closed, you grade everything that's of value, and
Yeah.
anything that's of really low value you sell to someone, and then realistically, if you buy a £5 single off eBay, you're not really going to sell it. You're either going to grade it or you're going to put it in a binder and keep it.
Yeah.
So we're reaching a point now where there's a serious a serious lot like lack of mid-level singles that you can easily obtain. And I've been noticing on eBay that like it's just harder to find stuff than it used to be. Especially as I think it's coupled with the fact that people are opening a lot less product now because a lot of people, myself included, have this mentality where you get opener's remorse if you open anything because you know
Yes.
there might be a chance you won't get it again. Like I'm
Yeah,
not.
and I think also like there's that notion of like I'll buy two boxes instead of one to open and one to sell down the line to make the first box free. And by down the line, I'm not talking about tomorrow. I'm talking about years down the line. But yeah, so
It's
yeah,
interesting to me that like people have this hard line against scalpers, which is fair. Like if you buy something at retail, that is not very. See, to me, scalping is where you buy something at retail that's not widely available to everyone, and then sell it to the people who want it at a higher price.
yes.
It's not buying a widely available product and then trying to resell it at a higher price, because realistically, in that situation, people have the option to not pay it. But I find it interesting that people have this attitude where scalping is wrong and frowned upon, but buying 3 cases of the newest Pokemon set and then putting it in your cupboard for 10 years is something that's widely accepted as like a smart business decision, where all you're doing is removing product from the market to capitalize later. And I just I find it a bit strange
It's
that people are
interesting. I think.
wholly on board with that. Don't get me wrong, like it is a smart business decision to buy something that's in demand, or even something that's not in demand that you foresee being wanted in the
In
future,
demand later.
and then like keeping a part of it.
Yeah.
But especially like evolutions, for example, like people were hoarding evolutions for months and months and months, and then like yeah, it paid off because it rocketed in price. But did it rocket in price because like it was organic interest, or did it skyrocket in price because it was organic interest and everyone had 3 cases in their cupboard?
Because it was organic cases and everyone had 3 cases in their cupboard.
Like
Why
is
would that boost the price up?
because people are removing supply from the market. So if enough people remove
Oh, I
supply from the
see. I
market,
see.
the
Yeah,
people
but
who
then
want
those
it.
people presumably sold at that time, right?
But then in that
But-
case, the value didn't go down really. So is this? I mean, obviously, it's all theoretical, right? Because I don't know how many people want to buy evolutions. Like,
yeah, sure.
it's still popular now, and it brings me to a thing that I was actually going to mention earlier, but I totally forgot about. Is that Pokemon is in an interesting position where Pokemon is very collectible, but it's
Mm.
not collectible in the same way that sports is. For example, with sports, the highest end cards in sports are numbered, so we know how many there are. We
Right, okay.
we know that there's 10 or 50 or 100 of this certain card, and it makes pricing versus like availability very simple to visualize. It's like there are 10. If there are 10 of something, it's more valuable than if there are 100 because there are 10 times less.
Yes.
But with Pokemon, like you're saying with the Gold Stars, they were one every 2 booster boxes. But we don't know
We've
how
got
many
no
that.
idea
Like we
how
don't know.
many are out
Yeah,
there, yeah.
there could be some guy could be sitting on thousands of them. Like a while ago, there was
Well,
a guy.
this is famously a case, right? Wasn't there with the Entei Raikou and Suicune specifically? There was a story about someone who had stolen, somehow had got hold of like a really large portion of Raikou Entei Suicune Gold Stars, and this is why they are the cheapest Gold Stars, as far as I know the story to go, is that this person has just been sitting on them and is constantly selling them in sets of 3 or whatever, and has been doing it. But they were stolen or something like that. They were stolen off of the back of a van was the story. I don't quite know it, but there is a story out there that I've not really heard much about. I'd need to do more research into it about these cards getting Yeah, there's loads of them. We got loads of them, but like, shh, don't tell anyone. It's we want them to think that they're worth lots. Um,
But that's the
and we just drip feed them.
that's the advantage of grading Pokemon, right? Is it gives you a tangible number.
Yes,
So
and the you can decide with a pop report. You can decide. You can use the pop report to sort of inform the the your decision, because I've got this Altaria card that I love, this CD song promo, and it's a promo. So the assumption is that there are quite a few of them out there, but in terms of graded and in the pop report, there are only 5 of them, and there's 5 PSA 10s out there, and I have one of them, so I've got 1/5 of that market. I can assume there's probably a Beckett Pristine 10 out there somewhere. I don't know for sure. I could look it up. I can assume there's like 1 CGC or whatever. If there's 5 PSA is the most popular, so it's probably going to be less than that. Even if we assume 5 from each of the companies, we're talking about like what 25 copies of this card out there in immaculate condition is basically the consensus, and we can use that to work out, okay, now what is the card, and is it exciting, or is it just kind of like my PSA 9 Starmie from Expedition that's non-hollow that there's only one of in a PSA 9? Like, yeah, sure, there's only one of it, but Starmie, it's non-hollow. Do we care? I don't know. Shiny Altaria CD promo is kind of interesting. We didn't get that in the UK, but Starmie, it's fine. May as well not be in the case.
it's just what makes Pokemon so exciting to collect, in my opinion, is that you don't like you can look at a pop report and you can see that there's however many, but one, we don't know how many there are at PSA currently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's fair to say that with your Altaria CD promo, there aren't that many. Like
Yes,
if they've
I
only
think
graded 5 in 5 years, it's unlikely that 150 are then going to be sitting in the grading pile at PSA.
yes. And the only one that I saw come back via PSA was one of the ones where it was because it comes in a little. So apparently the card's quite hard to grade because of how it's kept, but the other grading service you can get at PSA is like if it's in a wrapper, they'll grade the wrapper, and it's not indicative of the quality of the card. Do you know what I'm on about? Where they've got the
Yeah, we get the cello pack grade.
right, and you get the grade is for the pack. And so I saw one of those come back, and it got a 10, but I'm like, yeah, but the card inside is probably not a 10. It's just the wrappers of the cellophane is up there.
It's an interesting way of grading. I find like I know that that's designed for like
Mm,
you know actual packs, but like I find it funny that you can send off a sealed thing to PSA and they're like the card inside could be literally in half, but if the cello
yeah.
is fine, then
You know
yeah,
what I love about Pokemon card and the Pokemon cards and the economy of it all is that it's got all these little micro economies within it. It's got these little microcosms, if I'm using the words right, of you can't just go. And this is something I've really struggled to articulate to people who are outside the sphere, who are just like, well, surely whatever base set Charizard First Edition Shadowless is going for, if that goes up, Pokemon cards go up, and if that goes down, Pokemon cards go down. And it's like, no, that's not like 100% right. It is partially true, I think. Charizard very much leads the pack, but there's so many different little microcosms of right now we're going through a little bit of a dip. I think there's a lot of product is product, and cards are seeing a reduction in value, but there are some cards that are holding just fine. There's some cards that I imagine growing right now because people are now making assessments and judgments saying, okay, well, if all of these cards that were really popular and known about were able to reach this kind of price, well, what about these cards that no one's really speaking about that are from this set or that set or this promo or graded in this way? Where do they fit within the picture? And it's just, there's so many cards now, so many different variations of each card, so many different promotional events and little bits of history, so many different ways to collect. I see like Primal Lugia on Instagram, and it's all Lugia cards, and it's like people who are like going for binders of like 4 of each Lugia card, and I'm like, why would you ever want more than one of a card? Yeah, it's just my point of view, right? You know, I've got my shiny collection, but I've also got my collection of arts that I really want, regardless of quality. You know, I've sort of stopped caring about language on the card now. You know, I think I'm collecting for the art, so I'm just like, you know what? I don't care if the card's in Italian or Japanese or whatever. I'm gonna pick it up, which is a great way to save money because a lot of those cards are cheaper. Um, there's just so many different microcosms of what people care about, what is out there. Um, there's as long as people are interested in Pokemon, which we said at the beginning, you know, Pokemon is the biggest grossing media franchise. They know how to market. They will continue releasing new products year after year that will continue to tantalize and hypnotize us all to spending more money. As long as people are interested in Pokemon and new kids are growing up interested in Pokemon, which they are. How many of them are watching Logan Paul last year? You know, when all push comes to shove, there's just going to be this really healthy economy of trading. And it is a trading card game. And it's just when you get to a certain age, trading involves money. And it's just going to keep going forever, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can't see that. I mean, the Pokemon economy is just too big to fail as a whole. Like, I don't ever see there being a point in history where Pokemon cards are completely irrelevant and have zero value. Um,
Yes.
but I mean, obviously, Pokemon is the main focus, but you also have got quite into Yu-Gi-Oh, from what I understand.
I like my Yu Gi Oh! Yeah, I like my Yu-Gi-Oh. Just on that last point, I was gonna say, yeah, you know, aside from like famine or war, and then I was like, actually, no, the last year is proof that during times of hardship, we're like, no, we want something to entertain us. Yeah, no, Yu-Gi-Oh has been a secondary love of mine throughout my life. I call it a kind of quite an unhealthy relationship that I have with the game because I love the franchise, I love the characters, I grew up with it, I adore some of the artworks and the cards, and every time I go, I'm gonna give it a go. I'm gonna get back into it. I'll build a deck. I'll learn the latest rules, and I realize that I hate the game completely. I hate the game. So nowadays, my relationship to it is more as a collector.
Yeah, no, I used to collect it, and I played a little bit when I was a kid, and like the rules then, and like, well, not the rules. The rules are the same, but like the play style then was a lot more simple than it
It's
is now. Like it's so complex now,
yeah.
and maybe it's not, and maybe I'm just because I don't understand any of the mechanics that are going
It's
on. But like,
just boring. I'm bored of watching my opponents play for 5 minutes, you know? And you go, oh, well, you run a hand trap. I'm like, what the hell is a hand trap? Well, it's a card that you can play from your hand in your opponent's turn. Oh, right, okay. Oh, here are all the new hand traps. They each have 3 different effects in which you can reply to your opponent in 3 different scenarios during their turn to stop them getting off their combos. And then it's your go. And it's just this Yu-Gi-Oh is the franchise where I think power creep has been the worst. Um, you know, at its core, 40 cards in a deck, 40 to 60 cards in a deck, 40 cards is great because you get consistency. They introduced pendulums, which could be, and I said that really weirdly, pendulums, which could be used as either a monster or a spell card. So suddenly your 40 card deck is actually, if 20 of them are pendulums, it's actually a 60 card deck. That your card is now worth 2 cards. It can be played in either variation. Um, and you know now we've got this toolbox which is the extra deck. Fine, we've always had that, but the cards in it become easier and easier to access because they want to make the new mechanic more powerful than the last mechanic. So synchro monsters, you got to have a level 2 and a level 4 to make a level 6. Well, now you've just got to have any old 2 level 2s to make a rank 2. Well, now you've just got to have any 2 effect monsters to make a link, and it's we're now playing from our hands. It's accelerated to just such a ridiculous point. The game is completely unrecognizable to what it used to be. Sorry, rant over. I just hate it.
no, I honestly like I did a little delve into like what decks are being played these days, and it just looks so just
Mm,
complicated and just so unnecessarily complicated. I feel like
yeah.
the reason I like Yu-Gi-Oh is because the cards are cool. I
Yeah.
played a little bit, but like yeah, back when I was a kid, it was when it first came out, so it was nice and simple. It was like about the most complicated you got is that you had to you have to basically discard one thing to play another, and that was
Yes.
basically it.
Yeah.
And I could understand that because that makes sense. It's like sacrifice one monster to summon another. But yeah, now the whole like I've watched a bit of people playing it on YouTube, and it's just I don't have no idea. But Pokemon to a certain extent also has become a lot more complex in the recent years. Um, and I've managed to keep up with that, but I feel like it's because the mechanics are generally the same.
Pokemon doesn't suffer the same way because of the rotation, right?
Yeah,
With the rotation, right now, it's actually quite complex in that you've got GXs, tag team GXs, Vs, VMAXs, and maybe some new card type coming up on the horizon, and they're all intermingling. But what the next, because they simplify every generation, Sword and Shield, base set Sword and Shield, is just that. It's a base set. There's very few complicated cards in it. There's V and V Max, and then the cards in that set only interact with V and V Max. What will happen is when the next rotation hits in August, everything will start there. GX and Tag Team GX are out. They're gone. We don't need to think about that rule set anymore. We're just starting. We've got our Pokemon V, Pokemon V Max. And it will be like that for another set or two. We've now got battle styles, rapid and single strike coming in. Um, there may be a new card type that comes out. And then the next rotation will be a more advanced format where it's mingling that stuff with whatever comes next. And then the format after that, it will simplify itself again and just remove half of the mechanics. Um, and then fundamentally, the cards in your pool are okay, is this a card for, you know, uh, energy acceleration? Is it a card for scooping up your own cards so that they don't get killed? Is it a card for, drawing? Is it a card for gusting your opponent's Pokemon out? Those ideas are pretty fundamental and standard throughout Pokemon. And I think also the fact that you can only play one energy per turn unless a card states otherwise, and no card has ever really gone above, attached two or three energies in a turn, means that the card game has remained relatively consistent um, and slow paced, which is what I like. It's about resources, it's about managing your resources and doing it slowly. Yu Gi Oh! Any card from the game's history, you can use at any time. With, the only restriction in a game is you can only normal summon once per turn. But most cards allow for special summoning and are summoned by way of special summoning or circumvent that rule. So it's very rare that this rule, whereas with Pokemon, you need energy to attack. You can't do it without them. Again, very rare occasions in the game. So I think Pokemon is like I prefer it as a card game because I think you can pretty much jump in at any point when a new season is starting and go, okay, let's build a new deck. Let's see what's running competitively good right now. And it's going to play relatively similar to how the deck you played, seasons ago went.
yeah. It's going to be interesting the rotation in Pokemon because like basically they're eliminating the top two decks that are played right now with the rotation
Yeah.
because like ADP's gone, Pika Rom's gone as of August. So it's going to be interesting to see. Um, I have a vague interest in like I don't really play anymore because I well one I can't play in person up until very recently.
Yeah.
And two, like playing online is okay, but you need to constantly be like topping up with new sets, like the code cards from the new sets and stuff. And I've not been opening enough product really to get that
Sure.
much. Um,
Yeah.
but back in like early Sun and Moon, I was playing quite a lot. And that was a fun time. I used to have a water deck, which was you say that
Okay.
actually say about not being able to attach more than two or three energies. There was a Swampert from Primal Clash that allowed you to like double up. So if you attach an energy, you could attach another one, and
Nice.
it got pretty strong. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting just seeing when it rotates that what happens.
I'm looking for then to be my time back because I do want to play, but not being able to play in person has been huge. And then there's sort of no point in me making a deck right now because obviously rotation's going to knock stuff out, and you could go, oh, we'll make a deck that doesn't have any cards that are going to rotate out, and it's like, well, sure, but I don't know if it'll be good then. So my plan is really to just wait for that rotation to hit in August, have a look at the decks that are currently being run in tournaments, and going, do I fancy trying any of these? I'm not necessarily going for the most powerful. I'm going to go for the one that looks like it's maybe the more fun one to play. Um, yeah, and that's pretty much it. And there's still like even then there's such a learning curve when new sets are introduced and we're like, okay, how are we combating this new threat and what are we adding to the deck? And there's still such a learning curve just in terms of like, okay, the popular decks are ADP, Pikarom. You need to understand what those decks are doing and how they play so that you know how to counter them. And that's really the mark between someone like myself, who's quite new and not great, and then someone who is, played for years and is just absolutely fantastic and knows what you're planning.
Yes, I have an immense respect for people like as Tricky Jim and Joe from Omnipoke and the other guys at Omnipoke. Like how they have so much knowledge about the game is just unreal. Like they know so much, and they seem to know so much immediately as well. It's like they've played so much over the years that any new card comes out, they're like, well, you can insert it into this deck. It'll do this role.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like they have so much knowledge, and if anyone listening wants to learn more about Pokemon, I'd recommend those two. There's plenty of other good ones as well, obviously. Um, but yeah, I think carry
Well,
on.
you said that. Well, I just wanted to ask. You said you've not been opening much product lately. What are you buying? What are you picking up in terms of
Um,
Pokemon?
so I had a few things that I wanted to complete. So the first thing I completed was a Steam Siege Master set because
Yes.
it was just so cheap that it was just I although because it was in every product for 3 years, I opened quite a
Hmm.
lot of it just by the nature of that. So I looked through my binder and I had both of the secret rares and like 7 out of 8 of the full arts.
Right.
So I was like, well, I have 9 of the 10 most expensive cards in the set. I might as well just see how much I've got. And I looked how much I got, and I had about 70% of it complete. I was mainly just missing reverse hollows, and I went and bought those for about 20p each. So I think in total the whole set cost me 50, 60 pounds to complete.
That's awesome.
So to me it was just kind of a no brainer because it's like having a master set is something really cool, and the only other sets I've completed are small ones. Like I completed the Detective Pikachu set, for example,
Sure. Yeah.
but that was only 18 cards, and if you open 6 or 7 packs, you get most of them. Um, so yeah, I did that, and then I've collecting. I've actually finished now, pretty much all the ones that I can kind of afford. The ancient trait cards, which are like the 3/4 art cards from
Yeah. They were interesting.
yeah. Primal Clash, Roaring Skies, and Ancient Origins. So I bought a couple of the pre-release promos of that off Matt Cully, his
Oh yeah,
website.
yeah, yeah.
I'm missing the staff ones, which I just don't think I'll get because they're just a bit expensive. Um, and the Gyarados pre-release promo, but again, that's about 45, 50 pounds that card, so it's a bit much.
Sure.
The whole collection cost me less than that. So
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then apart from that, it's just one of every Growlithe card ever printed in English, which
Nice.
I'm getting
Nice.
getting close to. I think I'm missing 7 or 8 of them. Most of them are like Skyridge and Aquapolis reverse hollows. That's 3 of them,
Course.
and they cost a lot.
You know what? That's so nice. That I mean, you're talking about three again very unique collections. I think that's the kind of thing that just like really defines the Pokemon trading card game and where it's at is, and it's the kind of thing that when when events start again and when we're all meeting up in person, this is what we'll be doing. Oh, you've got gold stars. I know Toby's looking for this. Oh, great, cool. Oh, you've got Growlithe. Well, I know Mark's looking for this, and everyone's just helping everyone accumulate cards. And I mean, the sort of the nice thing about this for people like you and me who are, I assume, intending to be playing Pokemon cards and trading with them for the rest of our lives is the the people who did just kind of come in, duck out, and get a quick paycheck. Those cards will now be in circulation for us and more easily identifiable within collections, or we'll know what the populations are. And I like it. I think it's good.
I think that's the thing that Pokemon has that a lot of other things don't. It's like anything that's not tied to real world events. Like Pokemon is basically unaffected by the real world, and the only thing it's affected by is the Pokemon Company. So like you can like whichever Pokemon you want, and it doesn't necessarily affect its monetary value. Like I know
Yeah.
with sports, for example, if you like a player and they're not very good, then they're pretty cheap. But like with Pokemon, with a few exceptions, most cards, like if you want a card, say if you want a card of a Charizard, there's two in Vivid Voltage. They're £5 each.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to get the first edition or the Shining or the Gold Star. It's like
Or everything, I think there's been a big sentiment from people who sort of go, oh, I'll never complete this set or that set. It's just unachievable now. And if you were like getting in at the time it was all hyping it up, I think that's a really horrible time to obviously have to start. And any time in this last year is a bad time to start. But if you're someone who's been collecting Pokemon cards for the last 20 years, it's like you've had 20 years. You've had years and years and years and years and years to complete these sets and to do it. People will, I think, refer to like Vivid Voltage and go, oh yeah, but I'll never complete a full set of Vivid Voltage. And it's like, well, okay, maybe with that one set because it happens to be the set that came out smack bang in the middle of everything. It might be difficult. That's if they don't reprint it, which they probably will. You know, um, that's like a set that's going to be hard to get hold of. But like Battle Styles is readily more available than Vivid Voltage was. Um, and the set before Vivid Voltage, Darkness Ablaze, perfectly. There's loads of it. It's everywhere. Um, you know, the sentiment of completing a set. It's like that's a really hardcore thing to do. That I don't think you were maybe or a lot of people were planning on doing anyway. And if you were planning on doing it and your plans to do it were involving, WotC sets or whatever, you've had a really long time to do that in, so not, you know, not to sound like a bit of a downer and like, oh, well, it's on you, but also like, you can't expect, and I don't expect that tomorrow I could go out and get, well, you know what? Now I think Shadowless base set first edition cards are cool. Yeah, I should be able to get those at retail value. Like that's just wildly unrealistic. That's the it's like me getting into coin collecting tomorrow and going, I want every coin at the price that it was worth when it was in circulation. It's like, well, but that's just not how these things work.
I think
Um,
I think a lot of people would benefit from having like so the mindset I have is that I have like one big grand goal and then multiple achievable goals on the way.
yeah,
So my big goal end game is to own a PSA 10 first edition Shadowless Growlithe. I feel like that's
nice.
for my brand and for me like that is the end goal, right? Like you
Okay,
you don't
cool.
get better than that. But on the way, I have multiple things that I also like collecting, like just having one of every Growlithe in any condition,
Yeah.
like or the Steam Siege things. Like if you set yourself achievable goals, you're working towards things that you care about, but you're also inadvertently getting yourself closer to the end goal because you're growing your knowledge and you're growing your collection and you're just growing like your capital basically if you ever need to
You're growing
trade
your contacts, right? Like the people that you're trading with. For me, I've got three goals. I've got the one of every shining Pokemon, which I'm only 18 cards away. The problem is some of those cards are ungodly expensive. So we'll go through it in all. There's micro goals within that, which are like, let's try and do all of this part of the collection, then this, then this, then this, so on. So shining Pokemon. That's one. Um, one of every card art that I think looks really, really cool, and that's quite an ambitious goal as it is. I think there's about 80 cards that I'd love to get hold of. Some are quite expensive, some are relatively cheap. I don't really care about the condition on them. I'm not looking for the PSA. And then there's also this other one which I've done recently, which is taking the best Pokemon I've ever had adventures with in the games and finding the card art that I think best represent those Pokemon. And what I want to do is I want to create like a little scrapbook with a number of these card arts in and why I've chosen that card art, and I'll talk about it on the channel. Like how the Pokemon on that card, when I look at it, I see that member of the team that I adventured with in Fire Red or an Emerald or whatever. Again, really personal collection. Some of the cards, the most expensive card in there is going to be £100, and that's going to be the Hypno from. I really want the Hypno from Skyridge, I think it is, or Aquapolis. The hollow one, Eating Dreams. But then the cheapest cards in there are literally 20p, and most of the cards are more like 20p. And that's a meaningful collection to me, and that's exciting.
Yeah, I think the attitude that people, because obviously you want the most expensive things, because the reason they're expensive is because they're desired by lots of people. Like there's
Yes.
if Charizard if the first edition Charizard people didn't want it, it wouldn't be worth, I don't know, the last one sold for what, like nearly 200 grand, something like that. It sold for very low, but that's neither here nor there.
Sure.
But like there are multiple cards. Like I opened 4 packs of Battle Stars the other day. Like I got a Kingdra Hollow. It's like my favorite card in the whole set.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. I know exactly the one you're talking about. It's a really cool card. I want it back. I traded mine off. I want it back.
But that and the Entei Hollow are my two favorite cards in the set. It's like the Urshifu is cool. Don't get me wrong, but like I have no emotional attachment to Urshifu because it's new. Like I really like Kingdra. Like my favorite card from Primal Clash is the Kingdra, like the hollow ancient trait one,
Yes,
which
I
is
know what you mean.
which is currently at PSA, which I will hopefully see at some point this year. Um,
Hopefully.
I could do an entire podcast on just complaining about PSA, but there's no need. I gotta wait my turn.
Yeah,
But
that's it. It's
but
not gonna
they
make it come any faster.
yeah, they did apparently this week or last week complete entering everyone's cards that they have. So that's progress at least.
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, they said they wanted to get that
I
done by
think
the 1st of July, and so they're
I might
5 weeks early.
I might be wrong about this, but I feel like I'm due a return soon. Just in that, like, my first submission before I started doing monthly submissions was the end of August. So I think they've started doing August, and they're into that now. So I feel like it might not be too long before I get that first submission return, which would be so exciting.
Was that a standard level one?
Yes.
Yeah, because I'm in July and they've been grading mine for a couple of weeks. So
Okay.
hopefully, I mean, you know, in an ideal world, they would come back periodically from when we submitted them, right? So I've did July, August, September, October, and November. So if I get one back every month for the next 6 months, that'll be great.
Yeah, that would be nice, but I don't know that they'll do that.
Right. I feel like we've reached a point now where we should probably wrap it up.
Yes,
But
sure,
the
yeah.
last thing that I need to ask you is the recurring segment, which is Route 101, which is
Okay.
what's one thing in Pokemon or collectibles generally that you could easily live without.
Ooh. Ooh. I've never thought about that question. The thing in Pokemon I could live without is the elemental monkeys from Gen 5. But in terms of collectibles, um I don't know. There's a lot. What can I live without? There's a lot of people who will get excited about sets over individual cards, and to me, like the what I could live without is that level, that kind of hype, because I think sets are not. in the long term, sets are not about individual cards. Sets are about the stories that they tell, both within the cards and also the time that they were released. And where am I going with this? Like, I don't think like Rebel Clash. Like, what's going on in Rebel Clash? Does anyone care? Like, what's the card we're going for in Rebel Clash, and what's the story of Rebel Clash? Does anyone have any idea? And I feel like Vivid Voltage is basically just more of the same. There's a Pikachu in there. That's cool. All right, that's one card. Like, and I don't know. There was a lot of people I remember at the time who were just like, "I'm gonna get loads of Vivid Voltage. And I'm gonna like keep it sealed. It's gonna be worth so much money down the line." And I'm just like, the only reason this set will ever be worth money is if they never reprint it and what they say is, and it becomes known as like the pandemic set. Other than that, it's just it's just an ordinary set with nothing that exciting about it. Like, Battle Styles is way more exciting. The stuff Battle Styles as a set tells such a unique story. In the card art, in the new mechanic, in the different secret rares with the alternate art, there's so much there. Chilling Rain is gonna be off the, you know, off the chain. Yeah. Anyway, that's what I could live with. That kind of like hype around sets in that way, but I don't know how to articulate that.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Like, I feel like a lot now has been, well, I mean, Champion's Path was the example, right? Had two cards people loved. The set as a whole is terrible, and
Yes.
people are now coming around to the fact that Champion's Path is an awful set if you don't pull the Charizards, which you never really do. There's only so many full art Grapploks you can pull before you're like, actually, this is terrible.
This is I'm having a bad time. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me, Toby. It's been nice to
Thank you for
chat.
having me, man. Thank you
Um,
for having me. I'd love to come back some other time and chat more about PSA, complain about them. I'm all for hearing your complaints.
oh,
And yeah.
you're welcome back anytime. I just talk about PSA on a daily basis now. My girlfriend's getting a bit sick of it. But if anyone doesn't know where they can find you, where can they find you?
The internet. Anywhere on the internet. Just type in Birdkeeper Toby, you got a good chance I'll show up.
Yeah, that is true. I have checked. Um, thank you everyone for listening. It's been lovely. There will be another episode next week. I won't reveal the guest, but I probably will on Instagram. So follow me there at gradinggrowlithes, and I will see you all very soon. Goodbye.